Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Vobes show on the 28th of May 2018. It's lovely to have you here. We are live, coming from Worthing in West Sussex on a glorious sunny bank holiday Monday. With me in the studio is my lovely sister Corinne. Hello, Corinne.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
It's lovely to have you back on the show yet again.
Thank you very much for asking me back. It's great to be back in sunny Worthing.
As
the signs say.
As the signs say.
And
yes,
this time it's true.
It is, yes. And what a change that makes. Because you're you have come over from Devon, where you now live. Yes, which is marvellous. So there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, people are coming along. I should say that this is the first time that we have broadcast from the Vobes Show Facebook page. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't worry about any of this. If you're watching a rerun on one of the Facebook shares, then it doesn't matter. You won't get that. But if you're watching live, as we record this at 8 o'clock, British summertime, then you should be on the Vobes Show page, and then you'll be watching it. So I just thought I'd get that. The lovely Julia has joined us. Richard Suggett, Matthew Holdsworth, Mark Selwood, Danny Harris, Claire Leach, Mark Taylor, Anne Evans, Philip Naylor, Jennifer Stewart. They've all managed to...
Hello.
Exactly. They have found their way, ladies and gentlemen, to the stream, which is absolutely brilliant. So well done, you. It's lovely to see you, and I hope it wasn't difficult or complicated. So we are live, and we've got a fun-packed show actually, with some interesting debate. Hopefully, I don't know whether you have ever had to clear a house of perhaps a loved one or a parent or anything like that because they have died, and you've got that duty to do. Well, we have.
We've done it today.
We have done. Well, we've made a start, haven't we? We've made a hefty start. So we will talk a little bit about that in today's show. But we also want to know from you, if you've done it, your top tips, what experiences you've had. Did you find anything particularly interesting in amongst the left stuff? We'll tell you what we found, which will be interesting. And all that kind of stuff. So get yourself ready. Don't do it yet. Just prime yourself with all the information. We'll come back to that a bit shortly. So, lovely to be here on a bank holiday Monday.
Have you been having a good bank holiday?
Yes,
As it draws to its end, and we've had everything today, haven't we? We've had sun, which was gorgeous, but we've had rain, thunder, lightning.
Yeah.
Have you had rain, thunder,
yeah,
lightning?
wherever you happen to be, wherever you happen to be watching, be interesting to know if you've had interesting weather, because we certainly have. Now, I must tell you, if you are watching this, you might want to join the Bald Explorer group, which is a Facebook page. This is where all our lovely fans come together at the Bald Explorer walks and all the Vobes show and anything that we do, and they come along. We have a target to reach at the end of June. The end of May. We're still in May, aren't we?
Yes.
Only just in May.
Yes.
It's the 28th, and I was hoping to get 700 people joined by the end of May. Do you know how many people we have?
I think
you
may have reached the target. Is that right? Am I right?
We're just short by 3 people.
Oh.
We're just short, but there's still time.
3 more people.
Yes.
3 more people.
We want 3 more members to make
Recommend the group to all your friends.
Exactly, because it's quite good, isn't it?
It's fabulous. It's a fabulous group, isn't it?
It's a community.
Yeah, it's a community, and it's very interesting. There's always gorgeous posts, always something really nice going on, something to talk about, isn't there? And the comments there, very supportive. It's lovely.
It's lovely, and superb pictures are posted, and people are out there doing their vobing reporting and putting up movies.
It's getting really exciting, actually, with the vobing reporting, isn't it?
I'm getting worried because everybody's getting very good at their video making, and it's
once
giving
you've
me
done
a
your
run.
workshops, that'll be it.
I know,
I
absolutely.
think, people they'll be popping up with their own live shows, won't they?
Well, Well, that's to be
Get out
encouraged.
the way, Vobes.
Yeah.
Somebody else is taking over.
Exactly. So Levi says that he's had very interesting weather, but you haven't actually specified how interesting or what was interesting about it. So we'd like to know a bit more about that.
Have you had it all in one day, Levi? Have you had the sun, the rain, the thunder, the lightning, and anything else?
Yeah. Have you had any snow? That would be interesting. If you've had some snow, we'd like to know. Have you had snow? We'd like to know. Paul Couchman has joined. Hello, Paul. And I'd just like to say to Paul Couchman, because he really has been a top man getting us to the Regency Townhouse, which I'm going to talk about a little later on. But Paul has been very instrumental in helping the Bald Explorer and the Vobes show and all of that sort of stuff by getting in with the lovely people at the Regency Townhouse. So it's nice to see you out there, Paul, and being very supportive. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have a postcard. Yes, the postcard business is thriving. So we have another postcard. Here it is. Have a look at this. Let me just get the screen up so I can see where I'm showing it. Here we are. Look at this. It's a solo man hiking over some hills. And according to this, it's in the northern escarpment of the Black Mountains. So that's very nice. Up there in, I guess that must be Herefordshire. Is it, or is it Shropshire, the Black Mountains, aren't they? Oh, no, Long Mountain.
Is it not Wales?
It's right on the border. I'm sure it's Herefordshire. Yeah. Anyway, who's it from, Corinne? And what does it say?
Hello to the fabulous Richard and the lovely Julia. Perhaps one day Robbie and I can get you up one of the wonderful Welsh mountains.
Oh, there we are. Yeah, Welsh mountains. There you
go. Love, hugs and rays of sunshine from Maggie and Robbie Walters. And woof from Dottie.
Ah, good old Dottie. Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Dottie and Maggie and Robbie. So what your job now is to stick it on.
Stick it on the board.
Stick it on the board, yes.
If I can find room.
Yeah, I hope you can, because we still want some more postcards coming in. So if you fancy sending a postcard, it's very simple. What you have to do is send me an email, and I, by return, will send you my...
I'm wrecking the joint.
We'll send my address. Yes, it's very lightly...
fairly precarious.
There we go.
No, it's done.
There we go.
It's fixed.
It's like typical television. Nothing is actually bolted down because everything is movable should you need to.
Yes.
So well done. So it's right over there.
So there we are.
Marvellous.
Well, that's a brilliant suggestion, isn't it? The Welsh mountains are gorgeous.
They are.
And not that long ago, Georgie went, didn't she?
She went. Yes, she did. She went to.
She went to Snowdonia.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, she went to the Brecon Beacons on her way back. Didn't she?
She did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She's very on her own. Well, she did have Monty the dog.
Yes.
I remember the Black Mountains.
Although he's not much of a conversationalist, is he?
No, but, he will put his head down and just go, which is useful. I remember going to the Black Mountains some years ago, towing a caravan. And, yes, we were following what was then called the Prue Tour, the Prudential Building Society. Not to give them any... I don't even know if the Prudential is still going. But there used to be this race, which was supported by the Milk Marketing Board, called the Milk Race. And it was like the Tour de France, ladies and gentlemen, sort of mini Tour de France in England. Or in Britain, I should say. And then it got sponsored by the Prudential and became the Prue Tour. And they had
cycling.
Cycling, yeah. Sorry, I should have said that. So a whole bunch of entertainers got employed by the Prue Tour to try and attract people and entertain people at the start of these races, and when the cyclists had finished their circuit at the end of these races. So my mate Nigel and I were on this sort of thing, and so we would start somewhere like Cardiff, and then wherever they finished up, we had to drive and make sure we got there ahead of them, and then set up and juggle and unicycle and sort of fire eat and all that kind of rubbish.
Must have been cool doing the unicycle on a cycling tour.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we had a caravan as our accommodation, because we were travelling all around the country wherever these things were, and we had one which was in Cardiff, and then we had to get up to somewhere else, somewhere like, I don't know, North Wales somewhere. So we went over the Black Mountains. We were just following a map. These were days before sat-navs, and so I can't even give sat-navs a bad run for its money. So there we were driving this, and we was looking at the map, we were going up this road, and this road that we went, that said, oh look, if we take this road over the Black Mountain and get over there, it'll cut off about 10-20 miles. So we started to do this, but this road started to peter out. And we're going higher and higher and steeper with this big old caravan on the back on a road that's petering out until we realised that we had gone wrong because the road was petering out and we had nowhere to turn this sodding caravan round. We had to unhitch it. And we got this bloke was on his bicycle, not to do with the Pru Tour, just a chap on a random bicycle or something. And we got him to help. We unhitched it. And we were fearful as we unhitched it because it was on this steep hill.
But it might just
that it would go careering down into, you know, somebody's garden or something. It was a laugh. Certainly.
So they're absolutely beautiful, aren't they, the mountains? But I'm sure that the beauty sort of escaped you, didn't it, in the sort of the stress of a rolling caravan?
Yes. No. It was certainly memorable. I remember that. And poor old Nigel and I were a little stressed. We were somewhat stressed and
stressed in Wales.
Yeah, stressed in Wales, screaming and shouting at each other to get this caravan turned round, and then the car. And anyway, but so that's my memory of the Black Mountains, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, it would be nice to go there for sure. So thank you very much for that. I should say that also in the post, somebody, and I don't know yet who, has sent. I don't want to show my address. Has sent this to me and TLJ, the lovely Julia.
Oh.
And it's very nice. It's a mysterious present. Now, I did take a quick peek in, and there are inside a little envelope. I'll just show you this bit. A little envelope addressed to us, and 2 wrapped presents.
Wow.
But I don't know what they are, and we don't know who they're from as yet, because I'm going to wait till the lovely Julia, TLJ, is on the show, and then we'll open them together. So whoever you are, if you're out there watching, we've got them, but we don't know who you are. So, you know...
It's almost like Christmas, isn't it?
It's almost like Christmas. I think I've just revealed my address
Oops.
quite merrily there on a freeze frame.
No.
Never mind.
No. You didn't see that.
I didn't see it. No.
That,
So there we go. So let's see what people are saying out there and give us your comment. Happy memories, Richard. Yes, thank you very much. Elaine Brazier is there. Nikki Jess, Levi. Sorry, Levi. I keep wanting to say Levy.
Just think of the jeans.
I do.
Yes,
I know.
yes.
But I keep thinking Levy. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Levi. I've got it sort of mixed up in my head. Keep your address covered up, says Kevin. I do try. Paul Hines says, yes, I know. It's too late now. It's too late. People will be sending flowers and thrusting £50 notes through my door. I know what it's like. You know, the girls will be swooning at my door, sending poses and things. Never mind. Anyway, it all happens. Either that or I'll get swamped.
Or you get the death threats.
Yes,
we know where he lives now.
Yeah, we know where
Vobes,
that's right. What can you do? Anyway, so lovely Corinne is here. So what have you been up to since you've been on the show last?
Do you know, I can't remember how long ago it's been.
It has been some while.
Yes.
I
think I probably came.
Because you've been to Spain since then.
Yes, I've been to Spain. Which
so
is
tell
lovely.
us about Spain. Just bring yourself a little bit in because you look a little bit lost. There we go. That's better. There we are.
Well, when I was on the Camino, which was maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing how long ago that was.
Time is a slippery concept. However, when I was on the Camino, I met a lot of people.
As you do.
And, you know how you always have this thing about, we'll keep in contact, blah, blah, blah. But actually it's a real effort to keep in contact with people, isn't it? And often you don't make the effort. But I was very determined to make the effort with some of the lovely people I met on the Camino. So one friend that I met, she actually lives in Boulder in Colorado.
Boulder,
That's
Nice
Colorado.
name.
Yeah, which sounds fabulous. But she has an apartment in Spain, which is 40 miles south of Alicante. So obviously Spain is a lot nearer than Boulder. So that's where we meet.
Right.
And also she has a habit of like not giving me very much notice. So she'll say, I'm going to be in Spain next week. How about swinging by? And you just think, yeah, okay, but
subject to, I guess, time
but I
off
work, don't
yeah.
I? But so this time I was just able to fit in a little 5-day visit.
Right.
And, looking at the flights, it was cheaper to go to Spain than it is on the train to London. So why not?
It's cheaper to go to Spain.
Return, £73 return to go to. In fact, it cost me more to leave my car for 5 days at Bristol airport car park than it did to fly.
Where did you fly from?
Bristol.
Oh, from Bristol.
And you know that, and that's really great from it because we have. I'm in Devon, aren't I? But it's so easy to Bristol Airport from where I am. So
on the train?
No, I drove.
Oh, drove.
So I nipped up, left the car, toddled over to Spain. I think I was there for about 5 or 6 days, which was lovely.
Andy Ash says he'd rather go to Spain than London, and I think that's
you may
true.
have a point.
Yeah. Who wants to go to London these days?
Although I talk about London because I have a son that lives in London, so I also like going to London. But it's a mad world, isn't it, where it's actually cheaper to fly to Spain than it is to go to your own capital city.
I know it's very ironic, really. Maggie Walters, yes, she's just realised that she's seen her postcard. You may be a bit late to the party, but we've had a look at it. We've read it out, and it was marvellous. Thank you so much, and we're thrilled. So if anybody wants to send a postcard, I was going to say email me, richard@vobes.com. But obviously, just rewind the tape. You've all
seen the address.
Yeah, the address is on the envelope now. So hey ho, there you go. Levi says he's never been to Spain.
It's definitely it's a great place to go. It's definitely because it's quite varied. The Camino was one experience which was utterly amazing, but that was a 6-week experience.
Yes,
but just for. It depends what you want, doesn't it? But this was just a bit of sun, sea. I swam, and it's it was the beginning of May and I swam, so that was nice. A bit sunshine, a bit of bars on the beach.
How far south is where you went to?
Very south.
So you're nearer the equator, so you're going to have a bit more heat.
Opposite Morocco.
Oh, lovely.
Or Tunisia or
lovely.
North Africa. So very, very south. And hot, but always windy.
Oh, right. The lovely Julia says that she is off to Spain at the end of June.
Oh, whereabouts?
Whereabouts are you off to, lovely Julia?
Yeah.
And why haven't I been invited?
And also, food. We had lovely food. Bit hard as a vegetarian, the food in Spain, because they do like their meat and they don't quite get the concept of being a vegetarian. However, they are improving hugely, and the wine more than makes up for it.
Sarah Paul says it costs the same for them to go and book flights to Norway as to get the ferry with the car over to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah. So it's gone mad, hasn't it?
It is.
Really?
The world has gone mad, really.
Yeah.
And I suppose what it does is it does encourage people to travel. And, if we're all supposed to be trying to stop pollution and stop the air miles, it's actually, a bit more ridiculous that we're all flying around the world cheaper than we are.
But not even that, it's the extent of the driving that we're doing, isn't it? So before this visit, I've just visited my son in Cardiff and drove up there on the Friday and the Saturday. And I mean, obviously there's more traffic because it's bank holiday, isn't it? And we know there always is. But the amount of traffic was just staggering. And you've got to think to yourself, is it now the case that because the trains are so ridiculous that more people are just going, I'm not going to pay that, I'll drive? Because that's what I do now when I go to London. And
yes.
I was quite scared to drive to London. A bit scared, can't drive around London. Now I'm just like, forget scared. I'm just not paying that price on the train.
But to go into London, into the centre of London, you've still got the congestion charge, haven't you?
But fortunately, my son lives in Brixton.
Oh, just
so
outside.
So that's just not quite, but it's still quite scary. Bus lanes, lots of traffic, lots of pedestrians, lots of motorbikes, bikes. It's still quite scary. But after you've done it a few times, you just think that's okay. It's okay. It's better than paying, the 100 or whatever quid it is to go by train.
Unless you want to park, of course.
Yes, but if you're clever, you can get apps which show you where the free parking is.
Blimey.
Yes.
So you're looking at your app and you're driving. That's not.
No.
You've got to park though to get your app out.
No, you can get it all. No, you've got your Google on while you're driving, haven't you? Showing you where to go, and then when you get there, you've got your app which will show you where to park. But you can, stop your car or work these things out before you go.
Well, you're probably stuck in so much traffic that you've got plenty of time to look at the app anyway.
Well, you probably have, but I think that's still a thing.
What's still a thing?
That you might get. If you're looking at your app, but even if you're stopped, you're still technically driving, aren't you? Because advice now is if you're going to look at your phone, you've got to take your key out of the ignition and put it on your dashboard so you've made it absolutely clear that you are not driving.
So you couldn't really do that in traffic.
No.
Well,
unless you're on the M5 and it has become a car park.
Richard Suggett says he's worked in London for 2 years in the past, driving a van to different jobs, hated it and was ill as a result.
Not surprised. It must be so stressful.
So I can't, I don't like driving in London. I mean, I have driven in London, and as you say, I just don't. Why would I? I would rather, from here, the train is easy.
Yes,
from Sussex.
the train is course. Simple. And reasonable. But from Devon...
Oh, but from Devon, yes.
It's not.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, hideous thought. Driving in London, much more fun to drive in Spain. Are they safe drivers in Spain?
Maybe.
Who knows? The lovely Julia says she's going to Valencia. That sounds very nice.
Valencia. Where is that? I think, is that North Spain?
Don't know.
Julia, I think that's...
It's overseas.
I think that's more northern. I think so.
Paul Hine says, get the train unless it's southern. Yes, the people on southern train will have gone through absolute nightmares with the cancellations and down to the sort of the arguing between unions and the owners.
It's been a nightmare.
Disputes
it's been a nightmare.
It's just absolute rubbish. But there we go. And Jonathan says, I worked and commuted to London for 10 years. Utterly hateful. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how people do it day in, day out. I really don't know. I couldn't do it.
Except for, I mean, now the house prices, if you wanted to live in London, that's also now becoming almost impossible, isn't it?
Well, so many people are moving out of London who have been in London because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And also the sort of social side of London has changed.
My eldest son lives in London. He actually likes the social side. That's working for him. But what they can't do is they're trying desperately to save a deposit, but the prospect of being able to buy something in London, that diminishes, each year.
And what size place could you buy?
No, except for, I guess, what people do, don't they? If they at all are able to buy something in London, then after a few years they move out. And then with that money, they can buy something that's reasonable outside. Yes, yeah.
So if you can buy in London, buy it for about 3 years.
Live in a shoebox.
And then, you're a multi-millionaire. That's the way to do it. Julia says the Valencia is directly north of Alicante and not far.
Oh, so it's just showing my ignorance.
So there we are. Maggie says that her memory of the trains in Spain is that they're very basic. They rattled, they were noisy with hard wooden benches for the seats. So... a bit like British Rail.
Didn't experience the Spanish train, so, who knows, they may still be like that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move on from travel in Spain or this country, and just briefly, just like to say that, did you see the Regency Townhouse thing that we did?
Yes, wasn't it fantastic?
It was amazing, I have to say. Perhaps Julia had more faith in me and the project than perhaps I did at the time, because I was a little bit stressed trying to make sure everything all dovetailed and worked. And I have to say a big thanks goes to Julia for keeping me de-stressed and in one piece.
Yes, well done, Julia. You did a great job.
And she just, when it came to getting the guests, I don't know how she managed to do it, because every time I looked round, she was reading a book. She just kept, and I kept thinking, for goodness sake, Julia, you've got to get the next.
Focus on the project, Julia.
Yes, and I would turn around like this, and she's sitting in the background, just casually reading. She got into the part, and I was thinking, for goodness sake, this is outrageous. And then when I got to the end of the interview with whoever it was I had, suddenly, magically, they were there, and Julia was sort of handing them.
She was just working her Julia magic.
She was doing the TLJ magic. It was incredible. So big thanks to her, and as I said before, big thanks to Paul Couchman, who had made it all possible, which is wonderful. And I want to do more of these live events, and we're actively looking for interesting venues. Particularly, I like that buzz. Where people were milling around.
Wasn't it fabulous with people? You're there, you're doing an interview, and then people are doing whatever they're doing in the background. But that is live, isn't it? That is what is happening. Yeah. And it reflected it really well. I thought it was nice.
So I'd be interested in your thoughts and comments. I mean, most people have sort of said that they thought it worked quite well, but I think just having stuff going on in the background instead of a sort of basic wall, no matter how many postcards you send in, they're fairly static. But to have a background But on different subjects. Obviously, I wouldn't want to go now to another restored house, because that would be a bit barking. But
did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the dressing up and?
Loved it. Yes. Absolutely. Loved the dressing up. Loved the thing. Loved once we got to going on air and knowing that the little modem that I'd bought worked. Yes. And all of that the guests were there, and
because you looked fabulous.
It did,
although
look good.
Hot.
Yes, yes. It was a very hot day. But the thing that we did go around and we did record interviews,
yes,
which didn't make it to the show, and we spent a bit of time filming these interviews. But I realised as time was, and you think from 10 till 4. You'd have plenty of time to go and film bits, edit those bits, get them ready and play them in. But actually...
Well, you need a team to do that, don't you? Really, realistically?
You do need a team. But of course, a team of people needs paying.
Well, of course.
And you've got to rely on that team.
Yes.
And that team's got to know what you want precisely. Yes. So it's very... And this was the first time, so I was very keen.
And that's right. You're building it up, aren't you? And working out what works in that situation, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. But we filmed... a little opener, a nice, fairly imaginative little opener of us arriving and showing off. And Julia, again, came to the rescue because I wanted to film a bit with Julia and I walking round the house, looking at it, and then playing that in fairly early on, because even though we were live, we were static. We were in one room, and there were many rooms, and there were lots of stuff to see. And I wanted to be able to show that by having a roving camera. Well, when it came to it, we would pinch for time. And because the one thing I didn't really take into consideration was that it was open to the public. And I knew it was open to the public because I knew the public were coming. That was the whole point of it. But what I didn't realise just how many people of the public were coming. And suddenly, where you wanted to do stuff, there were people. And so we should have got in there when Paul got in there at about 7 o'clock in the morning and filmed all our stuff. We just needed to do things much, much earlier. But
then you've learned for the next time, haven't you?
Absolutely.
And also, imagine how exhausted you would have been if you'd been up there for 7.
Yeah, well, you know, that's me, isn't it? I'm a bit of a workaholic, but no, absolutely. But it was a huge learning experience. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think
it's a great thing to do.
Richard said he really liked the live show, and I want to thank Richard Suggett because he came along. It's like one of our people came along. With
Team Vobes.
Yeah, Team Vobes came along. And it was great to see him. And I'm sorry, we were going to do an interview with him to get his impressions of the house to play that in. But of course, in the end, by that point, I knew I had no time to edit any of it.
But you've got more material then for the website and stuff, for the Facebook page.
Yes, because we interviewed Zach Pinsent, who was this period tailor.
Interesting guy.
Lovely guy. So that little separate video was filmed to be edited, that hadn't been edited, to play in. But actually, we had him live on the show anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that we were going to have him live on the show until we did. Julia says we should have done a dress rehearsal. Well, that's true. We should have done. But we now know. So there we go. Steve Pilford says, I don't think you'll have around with... Yeah, getting the lovely Julia early... Bit of a tricky thing there, but let's not dwell on that. Anyway, everybody seems to think it went well, and we can only improve, and we hope we do. So we're looking for more of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, on to what we have been doing today, Corinne.
Yes, it's been a hard day.
It's been a very tough day. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have done anything like this, where a parent has died and you've been left the job of going through their belongings and clearing out their house. Now, I know Nigel Sadler has been doing that recently because his mother died recently and he's been doing it, so I realised that's something that he's been up to. And have you been doing that? That would be very nice. Jeff Jacobs has just arrived. Just want to say hello to Jeff Jacobs. When I see somebody's name who I haven't seen before, it's always nice just to welcome you to the team, which is great. And Pam's arrived and all the rest of it. And Saureen as well, very enjoyable, she says. So, Corinne, a lot of people said to me, good luck with going through your parents' belongings, your dad's belongings. It will be probably a very emotional time, and you'll come across things with lots of memories attached. how did you feel about going through Dad's belongings?
Well, it was sad, but it was sad for a whole host of other reasons, really, wasn't it?
It was sad for completely different reasons, really.
He just simply didn't have a lot of sentimental stuff.
It was 90% tat.
It was just unremitting rubbish. Can I say that? I've said it.
How many broken old DVD players can somebody have stored away, squirreled into cupboards? I mean, there must have been...
But, I mean, the whole thing was just amazing, really, wasn't it? Because he has this... It's a bungalow.
It's a bungalow.
But he has a loft conversion, which he did. And it wasn't technically legal or with building regs, so we can't sell it as a converted room. So it's a space, isn't it?
It's a space, a
which
playroom.
He made. And he made these cupboards for where the roofs are...
Under the eaves, sort of thing.
But that you can crawl into the cupboard, and there was so much stored in there, wasn't there? So,
I mean, he'd been in there. How long had he been? He'd been in there about 30 years.
It was just brilliant. So you were crawling around in these cupboards in the eaves,
in the dust and cobwebs,
and it was filthy, and hot.
Yeah, very hot.
And bringing out, and it's another speaker, and another speaker, and another DVD player, and another headphones.
Clearly, he had this thing about, well, it's broken and it no longer works, but I can't be bothered to take it down to the dump, so I'll push it.
Or it might be useful.
Well, that's the key thing. Everything useful. That Dad used to, it was his catchphrase. Well, it might be useful. And it was like, clearly, no, it won't be useful.
So in that battle between useful and sentimental, useful definitely won, except for... Actually, none of it was... It's all broken, isn't it?
The other thing is, when you think about somebody who's died, a parent or something, and you think, oh, there might be some family heirlooms, there might be something up there that's actually worth something, a little surprise, a little sort of, Easter egg, a nugget of gold, not a literal gold, but, a nugget of something.
Something really interesting from your family history.
That you don't know about. Yeah, so it might not be financially valuable, but it might be valuable to you.
People have jewellery, don't they, or watches, or some memorabilia, maybe something from the war, or their grandparents, or...
84 years he had lived on that earth.
Nothing.
And the sad thing is... There was nothing. Nothing of any... I mean...
Have the few things that really came out of it, we know about them anyway, don't we? There's the old projector with the little slides of us from babies to young teenagers, maybe.
Yeah.
So there's that. But that was a tiny little box. And there was his City and Guild certificate for being an engineer, or whatever.
So he had some certificates and some qualifications and some letters. There's some letters and there's some photographs, which of course are but we'd seen those.
We know about those.
And
there was the thing that you knew about, but I didn't, which is his mother's journal of when she went abroad with photographs and her writings, which that's a lovely thing for me because I didn't know that existed, but you actually knew.
I knew, and I looked at very, very... She was a very religious woman and visited a lot of Jerusalem.
Was out in Jerusalem, Palestine.
So she'd gone around a lot of all the religious...
So that's going to be interesting to really have time to look at that. But was there anything else apart from those things?
Well, I mean, in terms of the most valuable thing in the house, the most valuable thing was a scooter, wasn't it? It was this electric scooter that, one of these old people's scooters from when they can't drive or they can't walk and they get on the electric scooter to drive to the shops. And he had one of those, and my ex-wife, Dawn, had one because she's got problems with her feet, and she said, are you getting rid of Dad's? And she'd make an offer, and I said, have it, have it, because we'd only have to...
Well, she needs it, doesn't
she? She needs it, and it's
we
like...
don't, yeah.
But he bought it for something like £1,200. Is probably, you might be haggled to get about £300 from it. And he'd been sitting there for 2 years doing nothing.
And then poor Dawn came to collect it, didn't she? Charged it up. Georgie charged it up for us overnight.
Overnight, yeah. But she was going to drive it 3 miles home.
You got on it, and there was... we had serious doubts it was going to get any more than down the road.
Yeah, but apparently it got her home. But that was, a lawnmower which I bought when I had the power of attorney, so I could maintain the lawn. That was 80 quid from B&Q. You know, but everything, the furniture was like third, fourth hand, very knackered, very dirty, very old. And everything, but most stuff came from like the 70s. He just never bought anything nice or new.
No. He wasn't
it was so sad.
No,
sad.
No, he wasn't really into stuff, but that's okay. But he wasn't also not into stuff. He was just into sort of stuff that was.
How many razors, electric razors, still pristine in their packet from like the 1980s or something?
Or is it just as he got older, he would forget that he'd already ordered, because they had a lot of catalogues, and towards the end of his life, before the dementia set in or before it was diagnosed, his world was very small, and it consisted a lot of looking at these catalogue, these mail order catalogues. So maybe he just kept ordering the same things again, but forgetting he'd already got them. So they're still there, packed to the rafters.
Yes.
DVD players, razors, and speakers. Great big old speakers.
If there had been anything of any interest, then or valuable, or that sort of thing, I think his ex-partner took them. I mean,
that's a horrible thought, really.
Well, when she may have bought them, she may have had the rights, and they may have shared them.
Yes.
Because Dad just wouldn't have bought nice. He just didn't buy nice things.
He has some very lovely cups and saucers, which we thought was probably his mother's.
Yes.
But there was just like a handful of them.
Very strange.
But nothing really like from.
Very practical stuff. But very old.
And he had a very close relationship with his mother, so it's very surprising that he didn't have some keepsakes from her, really. He just wasn't that sort of person, obviously.
Because the funniest moment, and I hope Dad won't mind me sharing this, the funniest moment was we opened a cupboard up in his so-called playroom, and he'd sort of got various shelves, and in the eave there was a sort of, well, the eave comes down like this, and the cupboard opens up, and so you sort of duck into this cupboard thing. And there was this sort of corner of, well, it was a bit more than a corner. There was a sort of a magazine half coming down from the thing.
What's this, Richard?
And you looked at it and you went, hello. And I looked at that and I thought,
never seen this before.
I thought, hang on, I'm looking on the top shelf of a newsagent's here. What? And I said, but I've been in this cupboard several times. I've never seen that. And we realised that stuffed up into this eave were a few naughty magazines.
From the 1970s,
by the look of it, from the style of the photography. Not that I lingered any longer than necessary. Actually, Corinne had more of a gawp. You had more of a gawp than I did. We were so shocked.
Don't believe a word.
We were so shocked that, and they was going, but wait, these are ancient old.
Yes.
And they did look like the hairstyle and everything. It was just
the fact that he'd sneaked them up.
They got them out the way, which was the ludicrous thing was his partner never went up into this
playroom. So she
playroom.
would never have discovered them, would she?
But he felt he had to hide them. So it was funny.
That was hilarious. And we were just relieved, weren't we, that we hadn't sold the house.
Sold the house, and then, this playroom has turned into some children's nursery, and then suddenly these magazines dropped down. Daddy, what's this? Oh my goodness!
And I guess that's also a funny, like funny thing. Thinking about your dad buying these, looking at these magazines.
Yeah. But he'd been before his partner came along. He'd been a bachelor. So maybe he'd shoved them out the way and then had a relationship with her.
Maybe he'd forgotten about them.
All
and
about
maybe
them.
Hadn't.
So who knows?
Who knows?
But it just goes to show you never know what's stuffed in unusual places. So there we go.
Yes.
So that was absolutely fascinating. But we just got so hot, so dusty.
It was the unrelenting rubbish, really, wasn't it? Just sorting. So there's 3 piles. There's stuff we might like, which is tiny pile of stuff that we just look again and go through. We'll look again and
like
see if
photos and odd bits and things.
And then there's charity shop.
Quite a lot of stuff
that can go to the charity.
And it's kind of difficult, that, isn't it?
Yes.
The charity stuff, because you look at it and I kept going, well, who would want that? And you go, well, it's not. It's like a trinkety thing.
I love charity shops, and there's all sorts of mad stuff in charity shops, isn't there? So
and it's better than landfill.
Yeah.
So you
never know what people want, do you?
No. So you get this like unopened razor this electric razor, which clearly is 20 years old, bought from, I don't know, Boots or something. So it's not stylish. It does look old-fashioned, but it's not being used. So, and it probably still works because it's never been switched on in a mail order packet that he'd obviously ordered from some magazine somewhere. And you go, well, it's rubbish, really, but you don't want to bung it into landfill. So charity shop, somebody somewhere might buy it and get 5 minutes out of it. Who knows?
Who knows? And shoes and clothes. That's kind of obvious stuff, isn't it? But yeah.
When you open up a suit, there was a sad moment. There was one sad moment.
Oh yeah, that was. Really
we opened
sad.
up this nice old suitcase, big suitcase. Open it up, and inside, folded and ironed and all put away, beautifully ironed and beautifully, which his partner must have done, was a whole load of Y-fronts, hankies, and all that sort of stuff.
We couldn't really look, could we? We just had to shut the lid because it was a bit too heartbreaking.
Because nobody would want those.
It made it more real as well, and because maybe the rubbish doesn't really make it real, because it's just like, well, why have you got this, Dad? Your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth loudspeaker. Why have you got this? But they're more personal, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was sad.
Tag it as vintage, says Linda Kane. So there we go. And Alan Piddington says it will sell for loads. Just call it vintage.
All the rubbish.
All the rubbish. So
I don't know. I think there's vintage and then there's rubbish, and I think this is definitely in the rubbish category.
It's so difficult to sell because what one person's rubbish is somebody else's gold.
Well, and also some of the things are really sad, aren't they? So there's a very ingenious yellow painted thing for this television that he made. The
cantilevered.
Yeah, I mean, he must have made that, and it must have taken quite a lot of work to make it.
So there's a trolley. There was a television on this, what looked like some sort of counter thing, but it turns out it was an old trolley that he may have made or bought or adapted, because he would often adapt things. So it's a trolley with a top. So if you can imagine an old, like the old sort of tea trolley you'd see in the 1950s with the big wheels and then a sort of wooden thing where old Mrs. Muggins would be going round, "Tea, dear, would you like some tea?" So it's kind of one of those with a television and various...
little drawer underneath.
Yeah, loads of old junk.
Yeah.
So when we got rid of all of that, I looked at this thing and there was this knob on the end that you pulled, and the thing sort of cantilevered like this, so it would become more narrow, so that you'd have two shelves that cantilevered into one very long shelf.
Yes.
And it was very clever.
It was an ingenious design.
But ugly as hell.
It was mad.
Ugly
Absolutely, completely mad.
Yes.
And you couldn't give it to a charity shop because nobody is ever going to put that in their house. They're just not. It's not going to happen.
Clever design, but
you can imagine the hours that he would have figuring out how to make that. But it's going to go in landfill, isn't it? Because that's sad, because he would have invested time, effort, and energy. But no, nobody's going to have it.
Maggie Walters says that house clearing firms will usually take the lot and give you some cash for it, and ultimately,
what, rubbish and all?
Yeah, ultimately. That, I think, is what we're going to do, because, to separate all these things out and put them in the car and drive them round to the charity shops. Little
trips to the charity shops, so it's probably not...
It's not going to go. So, an interesting experience. Let us have a look and see what's been going on in the Bald Explorer Facebook group page and see some of your delightful photographs. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will do just that. Oh, you have to do the dance.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, do.
Those that are new, just stick with it.
Nothing changes on this show, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing changes. We still have to abide by the rules, So here we go. Let's have a look, see what you've been posting. And first of all, Mark Taylor wishes to do a recommendation. He's in Durham at the moment, or at least fairly recently, and he's been staying at the Georgian townhouse. There it is. And he says you stay in the townhouse, then you have the pancake breakfast next door. And he's been there twice for breakfast, I think 2 consecutive days. So he wanted to give them a recommendation.
And it looks fantastic.
And it looks very, very quaint, doesn't it? Quite like the sound of that. So, so if you're up that way, go and check it out. Jay Carter has been to the Winkworth Arboretum.
Well done, well done, yes, well done.
Lots of lovely pictures there. That's a place that I'm very keen to go and do a walk around myself with video. Maybe take the lovely Julia, TLJ, beg your pardon, up there. So do check that out. Graham Whittington has been taking pictures of the moon.
And that's a fabulous photo. Look at that.
Now, there is something special about that particular picture because it's actually taken from Petworth. And of course, you know, if you take the picture from anywhere else in the world, if you took it from Fittleworth, if you took it from Midhurst, if you took it from...
God forbid, Devon.
God forbid. You know, you'd get slightly different, you know, infinitely tiny, with slightly different angle on it. So that's the Petworth view.
And look at that with the craters on the side. That's a spectacular photo, isn't it?
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, well done.
So there you go. Well done, Graham. That's absolutely marvellous. This is a place I'm very keen to go and visit. Paul Hine has been to Netley Abbey. Looks delicious. Delicious? That's not really the right word, is it?
You're not going to eat it,
no,
are you?
I'm not going to eat it. No. Paul goes to some fascinating places, actually. He's been posting pictures up and he goes to these amazing places and I keep thinking, blimey, Hampshire seems to be full of interesting places. Yeah. Whatever happened to Sussex? Maybe I've just seen too many of the Sussex things. So, Paul, well done for posting that. Lovely pictures in the Bald Explorer group. Go and check it out. Now, Emily Champion. Here we go. Look at this. This is remarkable, Emily. You seem to have got your whole family here involved with some cheeky faces. You've been to Seaford Museum and you've been doing some videos as well, which is fantastic to see. Some Vobing reporting videos.
Done your own costume set. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it?
That's marvellous. Really, really impressive. So do check out lots of Emily's pictures and her kids, who look like a good bunch of fun people. Darren Windybank has got some delicious pictures. Delicious, again, delightful pictures.
You must be hungry. Are you feeling hungry, Richard?
Maybe, yeah.
But there's no food.
Poppies. He did some love. You were remarking
I thought
at his
poppies were beautiful.
He's been to Broughton in Hampshire, and then he went on, I can't remember the other place, but this is a church. I don't know if this is at Broughton, Darren, but fantastic looking place.
Sweet, very sweet.
We did like the pictures very much. And Chartwell, I believe this is, what's his name? Not Oliver Cromwell, why did I think of that? Churchill's house that he lived in at some point. Damien Rowett has been there. Some interesting pictures around Chartwell. And finally, the lovely Claire Leach has been to Sissinghurst Castle, which was the home of Vita Sackville West, who wrote an interesting book during the war. I can't remember now. She was a bit of a socialite, as far as I remember. Isn't that right, Claire? Bit of a socialite and what have you. And she lived at Sissinghurst for a while. So that was really good. So thank you very much for posting all those wonderful pictures. Keep posting them in the Bald Explorer group.
And check them out. If you haven't been there already, check them out, because there's some absolutely stunning photos.
So I only pick just, a few at random. Just so if your picture hasn't been shown, I do apologise if you've shoved one up there. I mean, usually what tends to happen is, as I'm setting up the show, I pick out these pictures, and then just before I do the show, I go back into the Bald Explorer page, and there's a whole host of new pictures. It's almost as if people have been posting, going, "Oh, I'll post it just before he does the show, on the basis he might put it in." Well, by that time, just before, it's too late. I've done it. Fabulous pictures of the moon, says Anne, which is true. Malcolm says, how about going to Pevensey Castle? Love to go to Pevensey Castle. I think it's English heritage, isn't it? Some of these things you can't always get into, or they go, excuse me, sir, you can't come in here filming, Is it for TV? Is it professional? But now with my gimbal and stuff, I'm a bit more able to get into places sneakily. And people don't... It is funny because I've approached many places in the past, particularly with National Trust and English Heritage, and said, could I do a little filming here? And they said, yes, £500, please. And you go, no, you misunderstand. I'm promoting your place. And they go, oh, yes, no, that's fine. £500 is that, or 750 or whatever their location fee is. Yeah. And you go, but no, you don't understand.
You'll get viewers. It'll encourage people to come. It'll showcase,
So many times I've said, but even if you get one family and you get like 20 or 50 quid out of that one family, me coming has been worthwhile. They seem to be so short-sighted. So there we are. Never mind, we shall see, says Malcolm Glazer. I'm not quite sure what he's seeing, but that will be good. All good stuff. So now, coming up, ladies and gentlemen, coming up this week in the walks. The walks on the Ball Explorer pages. You'll be interested to know that you remember I did some walks with Simon and Sharon Brown. Well, I've got a little bit more of that to come this week. We go to Wimpole House, which I think is either in Bedfordshire or Cambridgeshire. I can't remember now. I think it's in Cambridgeshire. Very nice, stately home with a fascinating folly. But they don't like to call it a folly. They like to call it a Gothic ruin. But it's a folly nonetheless, and that's coming up. And also our walk to Barton-le-Clay, which is in Bedfordshire, I think. And 2 videos with the lovely Mark English in Surrey. Yes, we go to Brockham Quarry and Betchworth Village. So that's this week's video stuff. Good stuff to look forward to, which I'm very pleased. And on Wednesday, fingers crossed, not quite sure how it's going to work out, but the weather seems to be in our favour. It's going to be overcast. The lovely Julia and myself are going to Richard Suggett's allotment. Richard Suggett, you'll know, is the veg grower. He has a podcast, the Veg Growers Podcast. He has the alternative, the adult over 18s, the Naked Gardener podcast as well, which he's only done 1 episode.
But there may be more to follow.
Yes, it's a question of how much he's prepared to get his kit off every time.
It's maybe a bit of encouragement.
So that's all quite fun. So we're going to be doing that'll be live 8 o'clock on Wednesday on the Vobes show. So look forward to that. Tomorrow, got an interesting little recce. Corinne is coming with me. We're going to meet up with Martin Snow and Martin's friend John, and we're going to go to the English Martyrs Catholic Church in Goring, where they have a replica of the is it Da Vinci? Who did the Michelangelo? Was it Michelangelo who did the Sistine Chapel? The replica of the ceiling is there. That's very famous, and we're going to go and have a look at that.
And that's amazing, isn't it, that it's there? I mean, did you know that?
Yeah, it's been a long-term project.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't been to see it, and all this time I've not been to see it. But the replica on the ceiling with a view to going and making a walk-round video. But that they would like us to go and do a recce and talk about. Some days you can just turn up and do filming. And other days people get a bit finicky and say, well, we need to talk to you about it. Can you tell us how you're going to do it and all that? So sometimes it's not just turn up and film. So that's very exciting. And also, a bit more news for you. This Saturday, Shoreham Fort. We like to support Shoreham Fort because they might fall over without our support. So we've got sort of lots of wooden trestles. No, they're having a gala day on June the 3rd, I think it is, and they're getting out their big cannon, firing their big cannon. Gary Baines will be there. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. Hopefully the sun will be shining, so give them some support. Get down to Shoreham Fort this Saturday for their gala event. Unfortunately, I can't make it. I've got to go up north to see Harriet and the lovely Lola, and so I've got some stuff to do with Harriet. But do go to Shoreham Fort. That should be fun. And have you ever been to the Forest of Dean?
No.
Sort of Gloucestershire way.
No, I don't think I have.
Gloucestershire. No, I'm planning a trip to the Forest of Dean for another of these mini adventures. You may remember the lovely Julia and I went to Glastonbury. Don't know if you remember that. We did. We went there. We had a great time. It was fantastic. Well, another of the mini adventures. Unfortunately, the lovely Julia has decided to go to Spain in Valencia, as she's told us now.
Could have a vobing from Valencia.
So hopefully she'll be vobing from Valencia. And while she's doing that, I thought, well, if she's going away, she can't leave me here on my own to fend off all these lovely viewers. So I thought I'll go off to the Forest of Dean. So I'm going to go on my own into the forest and look out the legends and the myths from the Forest of Dean. There's some very interesting places to go. And already one of my lovely contributors has already, without me asking, sent a cheque for £30 and said, we want to get you there, want the extras of behind the scenes.
Yes.
Now, I had a look on Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
And on Airbnb, there was this very lovely single bed gypsy caravan.
Oh, okay.
In the Forest of Dean.
Sounds lovely.
With a little patio and a little sort of cooking up, barbecue area and an outdoor loo and shower. It's a bit, and I thought, I'd like to get close to nature.
Yeah.
There's probably, I don't think there's any Wi-Fi, so I'll take there might not be any 4G, so I may disappear off the grid. So I'm a bit nervous about
Lost in the Forest of Dean.
Lost in the Forest of Dean.
I'll have to send out a search party for you.
Absolutely. So the plan is to go there.
So you're going to stay in this Airbnb?
Well, I haven't booked it, but the plan is to book. Plan. Yeah, there's some others that are cabins which have overlooks of the forest. So I don't know. So I'm going to try and find something like that. It wasn't terribly expensive. So I'm going to try and find something like that in the Forest of Dean. And do the walks and then do some behind the scenes. I'll be on my own, fending for myself. So I want to get, some behind the scenes stuff for the patrons. So if anybody wants to support the Bald Explorer and the Forest of Dean, I will set up a special little PayPal thing if you want to make a little extra donation.
You get some of the top tips, what goes on and how it's put together.
Exactly. Yeah. So if anybody can give me some advice of where to go, places to see, or if you're going to be... I haven't got the dates yet. I'll tell you more about that. But if you want to, meet up for a walk in the Forest of Dean, then it would be great. It's a huge area. It's also the Wye Valley as well. So it could be good. Forest of Dean sounds really interesting, says Mark Selwood. Thank you very much. The Forest of Dean will be fabulous, says Maggie. So there we go. So that's just a little thing. And how are we doing on the time? Yeah, finally, in the last minute... Put the 7th of July in your diary, ladies and gentlemen. What are you doing on the 7th of July?
Oh, well, I've reserved it because...
Yeah. This is the date I'm doing my video workshop. This is where, if you're interested in coming on a video workshop with me and learn how the Vobe does it, on the 7th of July... somewhere in Sussex, not quite sure, spend a day with the Vobe and we will all make whatever equipment you use. It doesn't have to be a GoPro and a gimbal, it can be anything, and I will talk through with you the mechanics of making and also the theory and storytelling of making travel log type videos and hints and tips, and you can ask any questions you like and I'll come up with some rubbish to answer.
It's going to be fab, isn't it? It's going to be fab for all of those lovely Vobers. Yeah, a few more. Yeah.
So a bit of a walk round somewhere, and we'll talk about the whole approach. So 7th of July, I will make that more interesting. I mean, more interesting,
more accessible.
More accessible. I will put all that on the website and all the rest of it, so people can then get in touch, and I'll show you how you can get in touch about it. But if you're interested, that's the date. I've got to pin it down. So
yes, yeah.
So there we go. Kaz Johnson says, how much? And initially I was just going to do it for free because it's the first one and I want to see if it works. And I didn't want to charge people and then they turn around and say, well, that wasn't much value. Yeah, so it's kind of like, so it'll be a nominal charge, if anything, like a tenner. Like a tenner.
Or donation. Maybe.
Or a donation, whatever you think it's worth. Something like that. It won't. I'm not there to fleece anybody. It's the first one. I'm there to learn as much about running a video workshop day with people who come along. Because if it works and it goes well, and I can think, I do more of these, then I will charge. But the first one, get in whilst you can. 7th of July, 2018, somewhere in Sussex.
Meet some of the team, the gang as well. A bit of networking.
10 till 4. We'll go for a pub lunch. Everybody buy their own lunch, that sort of thing, and then we'll talk over lunch. We can talk about the editing and the approach. It's more theoretical, and we'll do some filming, but it's not going to be technical you know, what F number you need to do and the aperture and the speed of the film. It won't be that. It's more the theory.
How to create.
And the storytelling aspect and, you know, key things, cutaways, jump cuts, and how to, you know, look at a place and think, how do I make this interesting? So that's
sharing the Vobes know-how.
Exactly. And you may come around going, well, that was rubbish, or you may come around, you won't. So there we go. Get attendees to do a before and after Vobing report for marketing purposes, says Richard Suggett. Well, exactly. So if it goes well and everybody loves it, then you can all share the love and say, you know, we did it at a special rate, and then I'll set up another day, and you know, it's like having those testimonials. So in a way, you'd be my guinea pigs.
There we are.
And you may have some advice for me. So, well, I wanted more of this, or I wanted more of that, or I didn't want any of it. So it's going to
be a learning experience for everybody, isn't it? And it's going to be fun.
And it should be fun, definitely fun. Yes. So there we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have come to the end of the show.
Wow. It's amazing how quickly an hour goes, isn't it?
2 minutes past, so 9 o'clock. So thank you very much to Corinne for coming in.
Thank you for having me again. It's been lovely.
It's been good. Tomorrow we've got to go and sort out the financial side of our probate business with banks.
It will come to an end, won't it?
It will come to an end, hopefully. But hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll be back again here tomorrow evening, flying solo, I think. And then Richard Suggett and the barbecue. Hopefully the lovely Julia will be there as well, live. So that'd be interesting. But that's it for now. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this music, you know it's time for the Vobes and his sister to say arrivederci.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope you've had a good show. Take care and au revoir.
Goodbye.